This episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast was brought to you by Beauty SaleMate, online retail and sales training for therapists treating clients. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Shaw. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today's guest is one that has been highly anticipated and requested numerous times from our Facebook community, and I too am equally as thrilled to have her on the podcast today. It's Enna Cocciolone from INSKIN Cosmedics. Maria wears many hats and has been extremely influential in the cosmetical product arena, and for that reason I'm going to share with you a small timeline of her accomplishments before we get into the conversation today. In 2007, Maria founded INSKIN Cosmedics, a medical aesthetic distribution company, and in 2009 she launched and created from scratch O Cosmetics, which is one of Australia's first cosmetical skincare ranges. In 2016, Maria opened her own manufacturing plant, and as if that year wasn't big enough already, she also co-created and launched the GINGER&ME product line. Maria's baby, INSKIN Cosmedics, is not only home to her own brands, but also home to the very popular DERMAPEN WORLD, VIORA DEVICES, EMERGINC and MISS VITALITY. The conversation with Maria today is completely stripped back, open and honest, which I so appreciate, as she shares with us her passion and why behind creating the empire that INSKIN is, the many challenges and setbacks that she's faced along the way, and also what success means to her. I too was able to sneak out of her what her holy grail O cosmetic product is. So special. This week, O Cosmetics had its 9th birthday celebration, and from myself, our audience, and the wider beauty industry community, I would like to extend a big, warm birthday wish and celebration to Maria and the team at O for a fabulous time spent in the industry thus far. Here's Maria and I. Maria of O Cosmetics and INSKIN, welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast.
Tamara, thank you for having me. How exciting is this?
I am so excited to bring you to our audience today. I was telling you offline how many of our audience have requested that you come on board and that we can explore and hear from your story. You are really well known for your work at INSKIN, which we will have a chat about today, but I guess where I'd like to start with maybe the side of you that people don't know is how you actually entered into into the industry.
Well, let me tell you, I'm really humbled by the fact that so many people recognize my story and my journey and want to know more. So thank you for that. And the thing that I love about this industry 34 years down the track is really, number one, is the people, and the fact that so many people are so happy for you. And a lot of my partners, a lot of the colleagues in the industry have actually watched me because I only started my own business 12 years ago. They actually watched me start it from scratch. And that's when I see the pride that they have, it makes me so emotional. I could cry now, actually. That's so early in the piece to get emotional. Like, seriously, my staff would laugh at that. But where did I start? Look, I started as a beauty therapist. So when people say to me, I'm just a beauty therapist, I started as a beauty therapist, and I worked in several salons along the way. And in those days, a lot of them were perfumery. So you had the perfumery out the front and the clinical, well, I'm going to say beauty salon. Actually, I'll get my terminology right because back then it was a beauty salon in the back. And a turning point for me was managing a salon within a perfumery, where I had some really high-end sales on one of the French brands that I used to sell. And so I became sort of watched from the company and they offered me a position which was a travelling role. These are the days before a GPS, and back then, 34 years ago, and still today, I'm an absolute spastic when it comes to directions. So I took the role, and I remember being so excited. I was going to be this travelling consultant and all these opportunities of being in a different place every day. And then the night before I started, and I was travelling out to, can't remember where I was going, I was like, oh, what have I done? And my husband said, what do you mean? What have you done? And I said, I don't know my way around. How am I going to get around? So there was many a day of, the directory book and turning it around and around, trying to find my way around. But from being a traveling consultant, I absolutely loved the opportunity of being in a new door every day, meeting new people and collating new information. I call the brain like the filing cabinet. So you'd go into a salon or go into a perfumery and you'd spend the day and you would give so much of yourself, but at the end of every day you'd pick up so much as well. So you'd open up your little brain filing cabinet, store that information. The next day you'd go into the next business and you were able to open up that filing cabinet with lots of new stuff to offer again. So once I did that traveling, I just didn't see myself going back into a clinic full time. But I got the great opportunity with that same company to become a national sales and marketing manager, which is a bit of a hoot because I never went to university. Because I'm still working on the basis of being a beauty therapist. Never done marketing in my life, but I just obviously had a natural flair for that. And I loved that job in my national sales and marketing role. I was just so happy where I was. But in 1991, I had my daughter, and I was still in the hospital when my husband walked in with an A4 envelope. And I said, what's that? He said, oh, you're not going to be happy. I said, what's that? He said, it's a new employment contract. I said, for what? He said, well, they want you back straight away. So we're talking almost 28 years ago. It would never happen today. But that was devastating. It was like, one of the hard lessons that you learn in life that, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how good you are or how kind you are, it's not always going to come back. But that took me back into, I resigned, of course, because I was being a mum and loved every minute of that. But as a career sort of focused woman and an Italian background, I had grandparents on both sides that were fighting for my baby. So 6 months later, I went back to work. I worked in an Elevachet salon, and then I wanted to work at Elevachet. And so I contacted them and said, well, you can't work in HQ unless you work on a department store counter. I was like, I don't want to work on a department store counter. Well, that's it. Like, you either work on a department store counter and you come and work in HQ, or you don't work in HQ. And ironically, Tamara, working on that department store counter for 6 months was the best sales learning that I ever had. I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but I think it should be obligatory that everybody works on a counter, because at the end of the day, you are just working with solving skin solutions. Once you get past that, excuse me, can you tell me where the hosiery department is? When you get past that, it's like, okay, I've got 3 seconds to impress you and, 3 minutes to serve you a skin solution. And that's really, where I started out. That's my base. And it was lots of hands-on and lots of sales and marketing. But it was just an amazing opportunity for me to see what the industry had to offer long term.
Yeah, incredible. And you sound like you're very much in the same mind frame as me, in that you kind of get into one role and you get excited about it, but then you get itchy feet and you want to keep exploring, going from perfumery into beauty salon, managing and travel and sales. Like you just, the industry is so good in that aspect because you can literally have any role.
Oh, and that's so important to identify that, Tamara, that I didn't have to steer off course, like to keep my excitement and to get your job satisfaction. You don't have to steer off course. The industry is just, and today it's even more so. It's so exciting, and it's about containing your excitement and staying sure that you're focused on what you stand for, what your vision is, and what your goals are, because it would be very easy to get distracted.
Yes. And so you're in a HQ for essentially a day spa or clinical company. When was the moment for you? Can you remember or recognize where you thought, I need to branch out and create something of my own?
Yeah, look, for me, the moment of hyperclarity was when I had worked for, I'm going to say, my third employer, that I saw things that I'm a real people's person. I base my whole entire career on people and the connection with people. I am very proud of my reputation in the industry because it's based on caring about people. My team here at INSKIN Cosmetics, we call them the Familia because we've got the Italian background. And so I found that I was working in businesses where there was a lot of stuff happening that it didn't sit comfortably with me. And so the last employer that I worked for was a little bit dodgy, to say the least. And so I thought, when I resigned from there, that it was time to do it for myself. I felt that I didn't want to build someone else's business anymore, and I just happened to do that all the time. And so I thought, it's now time for me to do it for myself. And that's when 12 years ago, when INSKIN Cosmetics became a real thing.
Incredible. And it is often that drive. I mean, people say that people don't leave businesses, people leave people. And I think, it's so fruitful that we all sit down, whether that's monthly or bi-monthly or even quarterly, and kind of reassess our values and the company that we're working for, and say to ourselves, well, what are my values, and the people that I'm working for, what are their values, and are they aligned? Because we're constantly growing and shifting and changing, and as our businesses, that you really do want to be aligned with the people who you're working for at that time.
It's just so important. When we recruit here at INSKIN, I am sometimes left gobsmacked by what I hear the employees go through, the way that they're treated by employers. And that for me is just, it's so important. We've always spoken about our accounts have always been our partners. I've always spoken about the fact that we partner each other's dream. And so when it comes to your customers, they've got a dream, I've got a dream. And when the two come together, it's amazing. And it's the team exactly the same. Nobody, well, actually, I'm not going to say nobody. Sometimes you do get people that don't have goals and are very happy to sit in a seat from 9 to 5:30 and just do their job. But most people that come to you they've got their own dreams, they've got their own passions, they've got their own goals. And so it's so important that as a business you can align with that. So at the end, everybody's happy.
Yeah, and I love that you say familiar, and obviously I'm Australian with no heritage background whatsoever, so you say it's so much cooler than I do. But that feeling of a family, because you are at work and you spend more time with your work family than sometimes you do with your own family. So that's such an important aspect.
It's so true, and the culture here is just, it's something really special, and people pick it up all the time, even when they come in for a job interview. And now when we do the job interviews, we find that you do your job specification, and of course the person needs to be able to do the job, but we focus a lot on the person's specification, because if you don't fit in the culture, and if it's a culture that you don't like, we're Italian, like we kiss each other hello. I say all the time, we're warm. It's like we care. And so if you're not interested in having that, fitting into something like that, then this is not the place that you want to work. But most people love belonging to something more than just the job.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I love that you're talking about the word culture there, because that's exactly what I'm trying to create at Beauty Industry. It's that women supporting women, beauty business owners supporting beauty business owners, therapists supporting therapists, and creating and shifting the change in the culture within our industry, because sometimes it is a negative aspect. And business owners sometimes say to me, Tamara, when you say the word culture, what are you actually talking about? It's all well and good to throw around the word community and culture. And I guess in the most simple way, it's the vibe that you get when you walk into a business. You immediately know in your heart of hearts and in your gut if this is the right place for you.
It's what you stand for, right? And sometimes I think that there is a little bit of misperception on what culture stands for, because but lots of places have got it. They just don't realize that they've got it. They've got that secret ingredient. But as the businesses get bigger, it's something that you start to realize. And what you're doing is just beautiful, Tamara, and I love it. it's if you can set the culture with these women empowering women, which is minus the ego and minus the tiaras, then you're going to do something really, really special. Because I think that this industry can sometimes get a bit lost like that. I find that when I walk into one of our partners' clinics, sometimes they're starstruck. And it makes me laugh. They're like, oh, I'm just having a girl fan moment. Oh, my God, this is just amazing. And what they don't know is that often it's me that's holding back the tears, like the visible emotional response that says, do you know, if not for you, I wouldn't do what I do, and for me, I do everything possible to get close to my partners and even consumers, because at the end of the day, that's what the culture is. Like, there's no hierarchy here. There's no, I don't sit in my tower. I'm there in the coalfields there, like working hard, and my sleeves rolled up, and I really and truly care. And like, one of the things here that I make a really big deal about is gratitude. I find just so many people just fail to be grateful. And we do lots of things here. For instance, if you work at INSKIN after a year, you get your birthday day off. One of the girls came back this morning. She said, thank you. I've never had my birthday off before. And is it sometimes it's a pain in the ass? Absolutely. It doesn't always work out fine. But it's something that is special to people, to enjoy their birthday with their family. When they come back, the other family's waiting for them. So creating a culture with and writing it down, understanding what you stand for is really, really important. Because what happens is, and you'll find this tomorrow too, every time you meet a new person, and the women that you're meeting are women that are strong women. A lot of them are opinionated women. And if you're not careful, you could find that what you stand for could be easily diluted. And that's the hardest thing, is ensuring that you don't get some strong team members that come and say, oh, you should do this or you should do that. And all of a sudden, you're the one that's sort of feeling uncomfortable within your own culture. So, I think that if you can, it's got to be written down. And if you refer to it all the time and say, like, that doesn't fit in, then and you feel strong about that, then you can control it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I always feel like people feel like they need to make a decision, say yes to a job, buy a piece of machinery, whatever it is, right now on the spot. And people don't realize that nobody needs an answer yesterday, basically, unless you have to literally sign off on something because it has to be on a plane in Australia tomorrow. Nothing needs an answer straight away. And I know personally, I've made some of the worst decisions in my life from being just reactive. And so now I learn to slow it down and say, can I have 24 hours to sit on that? Go home, realign my values, imagine my life, what it's going to look like if I say yes to that decision or if I say no, and then come back in and make that kind of choice from there. But I want to ask you about Cosmetics, because there are so many questions that I have around creating the range and that people in our audience have asked me about it. But I'd love to start just with the simple basics of your why. So why create a skincare range?
So when I started INSKIN Cosmetics, I did start with a Californian brand, and I very soon picked up the EMERGINC brand that I've still got today. And I started to see that I was building my reputation, my business, my livelihood on other people's brands. And I thought, okay, well, that's what distributors do, but I'm always going to be answering to other people or being aligned to their ethics and their values and their beliefs. And that's all okay while you believe that. But then when something is untoward or doesn't fit for you, it becomes uncomfortable. And then I'm in front of my partners, my team, and having to, talk about something that or endorse something that I don't agree with. So I thought, if I'm to do and one of the things that I had happen was I had a product that came in from California and it stained the skin. And this was one of the deciding factors, I think. And one of my partners rang and she said to me, Marie, this peel, is this supposed to leave the skin yellow for a couple of days? And I said, I couldn't imagine it's meant to do that at all, but let me have a look. So I went to the warehouse, picked out the peel, put it on all our hands in the office, and we were all stained. And I rang up the States and I said, oh, we've got a problem here. And his answer was always something like, I don't know what happens there. It only ever happens in Australia. And it was that one time too many, as opposed to saying, hey, we've got a problem with that product, we'll just take it off the shelf, whatever. So I thought, no, I've got to do this for myself. And I was in a really good place at the time because I was, science was changing rapidly. Medical innovations were fast becoming available within the industry. Like, we had real active ingredients that worked on wound healing and anti-inflammatory, anti-aging. Online discounting was at a destructive point 12 years ago, and I had both brands that were readily available online. We were getting asked more and more for Australian made, and there was a limited offer, and I sort of thought, you know what, it's time to give the industry something exclusive, kick-ass and homegrown.
Yeah, incredible. And your therapists are your biggest advocates. I don't think I've ever met an O-Cosmetic therapist who has said anything bad about any of the products. In fact, even when I've worked for other product companies and I've said, oh, I'm using this retinol, they would go, oh, no, you haven't tried the O-Cosmetics retinol.
Oh, I've got such addicts, like I call them my addicts, and they're real fans, and we've built the range together. When people say to me, how hard is it to build, excuse me, how hard is it to build a brand? It's obviously, it's hard, absolutely. Everything about, building a business, building a brand, it's difficult. But if you just listen to the people, you can't go wrong. So when you say, Tamara, that, that they're such advocates, most of the time, I'm going to say 99% of the time, it's just me listening to them. And, one of the things about when you travel, you hear the same things a number of times. You should have an oil, or you should have a whatever. And it's like, I should have that. The people are asking for it. I've got to go and make that. So I think that's why it sort of all works out. We've never launched a product that's been a dud. We did pull in the very early days. I had a product called Eye Lift, which is like, one of those ones like you put it on around the eye area, and it becomes like a blurring effect, and then all the lines and wrinkles are gone. And I pulled that because I thought I had a problem with the formulation and the pumps weren't working. And after pulling it, sometime later, I realized that the problem was with the pump and not the formulation. But outside of that, it's just been, it's a team effort. It really and truly is. They might not know that. I do tell everybody that. I tell my partners that all the time. Sometimes they name products, but it is a team effort to build a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more then. You talk about O-Cosmetics being cosmetical, and I read that one of your goals is to make that term internationally recognized. I guess for people who may have heard of cosmetic and cosmeceutical, do you mind just explaining what cosmetical means and why you're so passionate about that word actually being so recognized?
Absolutely. Funny thing was when 12 years ago, when I created INSKIN Cosmetics with a D, I had lots of people contacting me to let me know that I had a spelling mistake in my name. But if you're going to put a new word out there, you absolutely need to be able to explain it. So at the time, the industry had loads of cosmetic offers in it, and cosmeceuticals were definitely something that were quite strong and quite available. But I thought one of the criteria about O-Cosmetics that I was going to stand strong on was the fact that we were going to use the active ingredients, every active ingredient, in its functional dose. So what that means is that if the scientist recommends that you use 10% of an active ingredient, most people will use 5%, makes it a cosmeceutical, or 0.5% makes it a cosmetic. But I was going to use 10%. So I didn't want to be in the same segment or the same category as the other brands. So when you look at a functional active and you know that it means it's going to be able to trigger a physiological stimuli in the cell. It was going to trigger a transformation in the skin like a medicine does. I thought the coining of the word cosmetics and medical would be something that we could hang our hat off. And so 12 years ago, INSKIN Cosmetics, 9 years ago, O Cosmetics with a D, and even the Ginger&Me, I couldn't go back on that. Like, even though I have a co-creator in the brand, I couldn't go back to being a cosmeceutical when I've, been instrumental in bringing out an active ingredient that was used in its functional dose, and hence it's Ginger&Me Neurocosmetics.
Amazing. And I love that kind of proactivity in changing the industry. It's only with people like yourself who are at the forefront, who are pushing the envelope, who are doing innovative things that really that's where we get the amazing results for our clients.
Absolutely. And I think that you can't just talk. You've got to walk the talk. So if you're going to say you're different, you need to explain how you're different. And if you're different, you just can't accept to be in the same category as everybody else. And the thing with the cosmetic beauty industry is that, the TGA regulates our vocab so much, and everything sounds like the same fluff and puff. And it's a really difficult challenge to get around that, because there's so many things that you can't say. But being able to say that you're cosmetical, being able to say that works on cell optimization, like using functional actives, triggers cell optimization and normal skin function, they're the words that you can use, and they don't regulate, that allows you to be a little bit ahead of the rest.
After the break, Maria and I talk about success and the highlights she's had along her career pathway, as well as letting us in on her favourite O Cosmetics product. But first, a mention from today's sponsor, which is actually beauty industry's newest little sister. Team, travelling around in my development sessions through clinic, salon and spa, there's nothing more that I hear more frequently than, Tamara, how do I help my therapist prescribe more product and rebook their clients for better results? So with that in mind, I would like to introduce to you Beauty SaleMate, an online therapist retail and sales training portal. All you have to do is simply log into the website, choose a payment package that best suits you and your team, and away you go, watching interactive videos, online consultation techniques, client behaviours, rebooking skills, and retail sales from the touch of a button in your beauty space. Increase your average client spend, boost your rebooking percentage, and add to your client's product basket in a matter of minutes. You can find out all of this information and more on the website at beautysalemate.com. As Oscar Wilde said, you can never be overeducated or overdressed, and I so believe that. And now, back to Maria. And something that you are quite ahead of the rest in is, and what I hear from your stockists as well, is that you're clinic exclusive, which means that you're not sold online. How important is it to you to actually be able to offer that exclusivity and keep the products, by prescription only?
Tamara, it's super important given the cosmetical nature of the brand. But if I'm going to be honest, it's getting more and more challenging in a growing digital time to stay that way. And let me explain to you why. It's INSKIN, or let's say O Cosmetics in this instance, leads the industry in its digital marketing. Our social presence for the brand, our interaction with our consumer is second to none. And I'm not just saying that, there's analytical numbers that support that. But what happens is, which has become really something interesting, the digital reach is comprised of consumers that visit clinics. And so we've got, we talk to consumers that visit an O clinic and consumers that visit a non-O clinic. So you're always able to entice them to coming into an O clinic. And that's really wonderful. Even this morning on one of our forums, we've got one of our partners saying how a customer that stopped coming to her saw something on social media and came in and wanted to buy the product. And that's our ultimate goal. And that's what we've always been about. But what we didn't bargain on, and is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, is the consumers that don't visit a clinic. So they're being exposed to a professional brand because of the social presence. They don't go to a clinic. And there is a smaller percentage of those that can be swayed. They'll actually walk into a clinic to buy their product, or they will walk into a clinic and have a treatment. That's the ultimate goal. That's gold when that can happen. But now we've got a really big percentage of customers that don't visit a clinic and have no interest in visiting a clinic. So this demographic is getting bigger and bigger, and it's getting more challenging. And so one of the things that the industry, the professional industry, has got to get better at is backing a professional brand. So, last year, this may shock people, and I'm very transparent. Once you get to know me, I don't hide anything from anyone. Of our Active O customers, 51% were selling our Christmas pack. Now, that Core 4 pack is anticipated. Like come September, customers are already asking for it. Come October, VIPs are happening and those bags are going out like crazy. Now, when you are marketing those products, not selling, marketing those products online, and consumers go in to find a clinic and then they go into the clinic and the product isn't there, it's a problem. So being exclusive in the professional industry is super important for us, but we have challenges around that we're going to have to start working on. I did work for a company that come Christmas, they would just send the Christmas parcel, like the whole parcel, out to every stockist on their database. Had they ordered it or not ordered it? And I was like mortified. It's like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
20 years later, I'm starting to understand why. And that's even before all this was happening. So, yeah, it's challenging, Tamara. It's challenging.
Yeah, and I completely resonate with what you're saying there. I mean, I come from a marketing background. Shortly, in my career, I realized that I loved marketing. And so then I went and studied that on the side, and I completely understand both views. I mean, I understand the industry view. They want something to be clinic exclusive, but I do agree in what you're saying there. When you're fighting against your own brand, that is so difficult. And I've worked for brands in the past where, exactly as you're saying, you would have a kit or you would have an exclusive monthly offer, and people would comment on the social media saying, I went into Tamara's beauty clinic for that brush or that bag or whatever it was, and she didn't have it. And so I do agree in automatic send outs, I think it's called, but at the same time, the clinics need to support the brand that is supporting them too.
Absolutely. And consumers, they don't hold back, If they walk into a clinic and it's not there, their next phone call is here.
Yes.
Or not necessarily a phone call today. It's mainly on the back end with the messaging, the Facebook and the Insta messaging. So, and we find out about it straight away. And I say to our partners all the time, if somebody comes in and they're looking to, like, for instance, they might just walk in and say, look, I've run out of Immortal. And the clinic might say, and this is a real story, it's a true story. The clinic might say, oh, look, we've run out of Immortal cream. It's like the consumer says, oh, can you tell me when you're going to get that back? And the consumers say that clinics say, well, I'm not sure. We just got an order and I don't know when we're getting another one. I go, oh, my God, don't do that. I say to them, ring up the office, ring up INSKIN, if it's just the Immortal, like hopefully you're going to say, hey, can you do this for me? Can you send me 12 Immortals so that I can pop them on my shelf? But can you send this one to this customer so overnight so that they can get it? That's the service we offer. There's no excuse for turning away a consumer. But unfortunately, I'm sure that, Tamara, yourself and our listeners today are going to understand that not everybody does it to, a 5-star benchmark performance. And unfortunately, consumers today, they want it here and they want it now. And if they can't have it here and now, they may actually leave the clinic and look for it somewhere else, so they lose the customer. But what is even more upsetting for me, because they've got control of that, what's more upsetting for me is when they leave the brand because it's too hard to get.
Yes, and as we know, there is a skin clinic or a day spa or something right around the corner. And so they will leave that brand, they'll leave the space. And if they're not already jumping online, because that's the easiest and the fastest way, they know they can jump online and they'll get it in their mailbox tomorrow with a Tim Tam, you know, otherwise
Yes,
they're going to walk
exactly.
down
Know
the
exactly what you're
street
talking about.
and they're going to go get it from somewhere else, or they'll walk down
Yeah,
the street, they'll have a savvy therapist who says, actually, don't worry, this is our vitamin B or whatever it may be. So you need to be captivating and maximizing every single opportunity at all times.
absolutely.
I would love to have a chat about Ginger and Me, which you mentioned before. It's quite a different range in contrast to O. What was the rationale behind that?
Primarily, my business partner in GINGER&ME, which is Nicola Quinn, she is my O distributor in New Zealand. And so she's got her distribution company, Pro Beauty, and I've got INSKIN Cosmetics, and our biggest brand is O Cosmetics. But we felt that, a lot of skins come into clinics where they're not ready for a brand like an active brand like O Cosmetics. So because of the functional actives and the fact that we use a number of functional actives within a product, their skins weren't ready, or they weren't wanting to work with the possible response that the actives can trigger. So what we thought initially, Nikki was looking in Hong Kong and Cosmoprof for a more nurturing / entry-level skincare brand. But she couldn't find it. And Dummy here said, look, if you can't find it, I've made one brand, we can make another brand. I always say, like, I'm the only woman in the Australian beauty industry that has created 2 brands from scratch, with a possible third on the way. Talk about that. But, and I used to think that was amazing. But now I know that I'm the only dumbass in the industry that's done it, because creating a second brand when you've got such a successful first one is challenging. And so it's the exact question that you asked me, what's the rationale behind the creation? So for us, it was having a more entry-level nurturing brand, still cosmetical, so still with functional actives, but not as many actives in the one product, so that there was less chance of a response. But we also took the opportunity, Tamara, to consider 9 years down the track, or 7 years down the track it was at that time, what had changed in the industry. So when you look at O Cosmetics, it's very much about serious corrective skincare and in-clinic treatments. And I actually made the choice to remove the fluff and the puff and the indulgence and the decadence and the luxury from O Cosmetics, because at that time there was still a lot of those French brands and there was still a lot of that happening. And I thought, all right, you can have a massage and you can have like signature massage and the slip mat and the beautiful oils and all that sort of stuff with other brands. But when you come to O, you're coming to serious skin. But fast forward 7 years down the track, and life has just gotten mental, absolutely crazy, And so people are looking for both. And so we thought, with Ginger and Me, we needed to do something that considered modern living and lifestyles and, individuals' mental needs too. Like, mental health has become such an incredible issue, and whether, in the schools and women, this was specifically about women and that experience that women go through, where there's days that they don't feel like that they can jump out of bed because they just can't juggle another ball, or they can't face all the balls they've got in the air, or that they don't feel like that they're enough, or they might be a little bit older and hating their job, but they can't leave it because they're never going to get another job because they're older. So all these things that happen in life. And so Nikki and I wanted to put out a really strong mindful message. And we did that in a really strong message, what we call choose your tube. And so we talk, the skin side and the skin journey is a given, it's granted. That's what we do, But where we wanted to give inspiration to the sisterhood is where we talk about choosing a tube. So it's choosing, when you wake up in the morning, you get the opportunity to choose your attitude, the way you're going to do life, the way that you're going to tackle the day. And the altitude, what you get out of life. And I always say that if I had $1 for every person that's told me how lucky I am, I would probably be very rich just on that. But the last time that someone offered me luck on a silver platter was never.
No.
So, you get to choose what you want to get out of life. And so sometimes people say to me, hey, I'm thinking of creating a skincare brand. I always say the same answer. I did, and you could too. So like getting what you want out of life is a choice. And then we go back to the gratitude, acknowledging the blessings of life. And I'm really, really big about that. And the other thing, when we talk about choosing your tune at Ginger and Me, we talk about your beauty tune. Now, this is the word that I made up, probably will never make it into Wikipedia. But what I wanted to the message that I wanted to express with that was the way you show up to life, and not just the way that you look, but the smile on your face. And, everyone's got shit going down. Another one of my sayings is that every day has got an element of shit in it. And some days you're going to step over that shit. Other days you're going to get it on your shoes. And on the really bad days, you're going to fall flat-faced into it. But every day is going to have shit. So, the way that you turn up to life is really important. So Ginger and Me embraces that whole skin and mental health journey in one. Very different to O Cosmetics. But when you put them on the shelf together, you have a buffet of active ingredients that no one can surpass.
Amazing. And I have actually a workshop that I run with teams and with therapists on the expectations of the industry now. And it exactly outlines what you've said there, in that, we used to all just do massage and just work on the counters, and that they were really the only two jobs in the industry that you could have. And then, we started adding on half-hour facials into the massage because we as therapists got sick and we wanted a break. We wanted to sit down for half an hour. And then our clients started seeing the results. And then all of a sudden we're into, cosmetical and cosmeceutical, and we're retailing. And then we move into, needling, and we move into peels, and then injectable comes. But now our clients are coming in saying, I'm so busy, I'm running around on coffee and adrenaline, and I'm exhausted. Now I understand what results I can get, but two, I also want the experience and the downtime. And that pretty much encompasses what Ginger and Me is by the outside looking in.
Absolutely. It's exactly that. And so between the two brands, it's all the things that you described. And it's true. It's like, it's an old aging population. And at the end of the day, you want to walk out of a clinic where your skin looks different. And it may look different for, all the wrong reasons to begin with. It might be red, and you just had a DERMAPEN treatment and your skin's quite inflamed. But you then expect that next day it's going to look better and better and better and better and better. But at the same time, we're just not prepared anymore to give up the indulgence and the decadence. It's like every day there's more and more on your plate. So if you can just give yourself some time, and having the mindfulness treatment, Tamara, is just, it's so empowering. It's just, how many times does someone have a conversation with anyone that they say to you, hey, you're enough. You've got this. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. You may do that with a best friend, and maybe not. Sometimes you don't have that community around you that speaks like that. I speak to people on the phone, and they could be just really good friends, and we end the phone call with I love you too. And sometimes people are a bit like, oh no, that's a bit much. Us wogs, we kiss when people walk in here. It's like, oh, okay, never done that before. But that whole touch and that whole care, sometimes it's just not around people. So when you can have a treatment and the earphones go on at the time of the mask. So when you said before, I laughed about that. How many times did we do that? When you put the mask on, and then you'd nick off for 20 minutes, have something to eat or go to the toilet, or often you would do like a brow wax or lashes or whatever it might be. But those days of not working on the patient or the guest the whole time have gone. But what happens here is that normally when the mask goes on, your subconscious starts to go, right, the treatment's nearly over. So when I leave here, I need to get some groceries. What am I going to make for dinner? The kids need this. There's swimming lessons, whatever it might be. And already the treatment is over before it's actually over. So what Nikki and I have done is sort of sabotage the mind a little bit, and you put the headset on, and if you focus on the words, and it's a professional practitioner that's speaking, it's something that whatever doubt you had, when you put your feet on the ground, you're like, you know what? I am enough. I've got this. And then we strategically place a little postcard that relates to that meditation session. So if it's, let's say we're talking about a shell or a lotus flower, you'll walk to we strategically place it where the first place where people will go, and there's a beautiful postcard that has that lotus flower or that shell that's hand drawn on there, or hand drawn, we've had them printed, and it says, you are enough. And when you turn it around, on the back it's got, you have the power to choose your tune. And then we talk through those things, and it's something that it's just a reminder to the individual. Don't let anybody tell you anything else. Fit your mask first. Look after yourself first, and you know what? Everything else is going to fall into place. So it's a very special brand.
Oh, I love that. And something that I so agree with, and I've been watching in the industry, is clients begging for more time. And I said, and I mentioned in our Facebook community rather, a little while ago, I had a 90-minute facial, and I was like, oh my goodness, 90-minute facials are the new black. This is where I have needed my time. But what I loved about you is you just immediately jumped on board and said, oh my goodness, we're changing our protocols. This is it. So cool. And I love that you've got that flexibility and adaptability to the industry, because there are going to be people who are left behind who have just always done what they've always done.
Yeah. Well, see, we can do the combination now of O and Ginger and Me together, and that's 90 minutes, but that's all your skin and mental goals all covered in one, So it's something really special. And our partners that have come on board with the two brands, and there's a number of those, that they've really got it. One thing is to develop and create. The other is when they actually implement and install. It's just magic. They're just doing a brilliant job.
Incredible. We see the success that O Cosmetics is, that INSKIN is, that, you've got DERMAPEN, and I guess sometimes it can be easy to overlook the difficult times that you may have encountered on the journey, and just to kind of sand back that glossy surface that I guess Instagram and Facebook paints on us. I'd love if you could share perhaps some of the biggest challenges that you faced along the way.
My day, even before starting INSKIN Cosmetics, was a huge challenge for me. I'd left an employer that sued me before I even started. So his objective was to stop me from becoming a competitor. And he was good. Like he was unrelentless, and he tried with, suggesting that I had stolen things and done all sorts of things. And then when he wasn't able to pinpoint anything on me for that, like for instance, he said, you took my staff. I haven't even got a business. I haven't even started. I haven't got your staff. And when I started my business, I didn't have any of his staff, But then he took out and personally attacked me. And then he went into clinics, Imagine this. He went into clinics and he said, that Maria Cocciolone, she has stolen from me. She's taken my database. She's ruined my life. And I was like, oh my, and he cried. He was actually able to cry. And for me, that was a really hard time, Tamara. And I'll tell you why, because clearly, hand on heart, I had never done anything like that. And I have a real problem with people that start a business. And sadly, it happens in our industry too, where, they do the wrong thing by their employer. I don't want ever to take any credit or be successful on anything that I haven't earned from the ground up, So, so from that perspective, I had to really, I lost a lot of colleagues in the industry, and a lot of people were sort of like, oh, we really like Marie, but did she do that? And he's really convincing, and he came into my business and he's got a contract with her signature on it. Did she really do that? And so I had to take a stance then, and with each person that I employed, that we would never, ever get involved with anything like that, that I had done nothing wrong and we would take the high road. And over the years, you know, in some cases it took people 3, 4, 5 years to call me or to meet me somewhere and say, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. He was so
Wow.
good. I know. And you know, and that would have been, seriously, when you've got lawyers on you and all that sort of thing, you're sort of like, do I really need to do this? Maybe he's right. Maybe I shouldn't start a business. But I turned that around and thought, you know what? I am determined more than ever to get this right because I deserve this. I've worked so bloody hard, you know. So the challenges started way before the business started. I started with business partners. I noticed on a forum, I'm not sure if it was yours, even just last night, talking about, you know, should I have partners in my business? I started with partners, and within 3 months, one of them went, and within 6 months, the other one went, because there's always going to be, one of the things, like, you know, when you start a business, you got to start with money,
Yes.
you know, and if you don't have money, don't start. And Murray and I have always had this thing about attracting people with no money, you know, and so, and it's okay because, you know, if everybody, if you've got money to put on the table, they've got skill and expertise to put on the table different to yours, you're going to be okay. But if people are just going to ride your back, then it's not going to work out. So, you know, those challenges they're back in the day, and I learned so much from them. And as I always say, that, you know, your hardest lessons are your biggest blessings. So, you know, if I hadn't been through that, maybe I wouldn't have made the success that I have, because if it's too easy, then it's just not going to be worth it, I don't think. But since then, Tamara, and I don't think it'll be a surprise to anyone, the hardest thing about a business. Now, remember, I'm in a number of businesses. I'm the CEO of INSKIN Cosmetics. I'm the creator and founder, the CEO of O Cosmetics. I'm a co-creator and director of GINGER&ME, and we have a manufacturing plant as well that I work at 1 day a week. So in all those businesses, there is one challenge that is consistent, and that's people. That's always going to be people, and just really knowing, you know, understanding them and what makes them tick and getting the most out of them. But then in each of those business, I work with, you know, different distributors and suppliers, and really finding the right people, the people that have the same beliefs and ethics and morals. That's the most important thing as you. That's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of business owners and therapists who are listening to this are probably nodding along in their cars and as they go for walks, because we all know how hard people are, you know, and to find the right behaviors and the right personality types and to understand people. And, you know, you think you know someone and all of a sudden you're like, oh, where did she come from? This is a whole new person, you know.
It's a whole new person. And you go through the years and you sort of think, I've seen it all.
Yeah.
But every now and then, there's one that's like, I haven't seen that one before.
Exactly. And sometimes people are very good at interviews, and all of a sudden you're like, hang on, this wasn't the person I interviewed.
And it's funny, the stuff that gets you going sometimes, like the things that you can see. Sometimes you can see from a person's workstation, you know, their organizational skills. And you know, one of the things I'm big about our bathrooms. I think that you can tell a lot about a person's home, about a person's business from their bathrooms, you know. So often I'll walk into the bathroom, we've got signs on the doors, you know. It's just so important that they're clean all the time.
Yes.
And so sometimes I think I'm ranting, or I'm being a mum, like, and then I'm sure I can hear the, like, you know, the inner dialogue. You can see the bubble about their head going, is she for real? Like, it's just a bloody toilet. Doesn't matter where the Pino Clean sits. You know what? Yes, it does, because this represents our image. This represents what we stand for. And so how many times people walk up the stairs, they go, oh, do you mind if I just use the toilet really quickly?
Yeah.
That's going to be their first impression on my business.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Moving from bathrooms and hard times.
Toilets.
Great segue there. I'd love to ask you about some of your career highlights. I mean, you've done so much, but is there anything that stands out for you that you just go, oh, that was just such a magical moment?
Oh, Tamara, that is a really hard question, because there are just so many magical moments in my 34-year career. But you know what, I really pride myself on my relationships, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be remembered as, you know, the lady that created those brands, or the lady that owned INSKIN. I want to be remembered for just being a bloody nice person, someone that really cared and went out of their way for people and really cared about their goals and what they wanted, and whether that's, you know, my partners, potential partners, the INSKIN familia. I think your achievement is that if you don't have to cross the road, or when you're at an industry event and you don't need to sort of like go round the long way so you don't make eye contact with anybody, or somebody, I should say. I think that if you can just be known for being a nice person, a genuine person, a transparent person. And not to say that, you know, there aren't a couple of people in the industry that rip me off. And look, it's sad, you know. But again, I go back to what I said before: your biggest lessons are your greatest blessings. And I'll say hello to those people as well. So I think that if we could just have, and I'd do anything to help you in this goal tomorrow, if we can have an industry where we can all sit together. And I know you've got this amazing dinner that you've organised for some key people in the industry, as you see it. If we can do more of that, and that we can all be just together as one and working towards the same goals. Like, for instance, I always think, like, you know, when you end up with a bad debt, they were someone else's bad debt before. Like, if I've got a situation where I've lost $40,000, it would be so good to be able to say to people in my position, hey, look, just giving you a heads up, I've just lost $40,000 on this account. Just be careful, so that no one else gets burnt, because sadly the industry has still got cowboys in it, and everybody has to protect themselves, but we should be protecting each other. That's really important. So yes, I've created a couple of brands. I've got a business that I didn't even know what it was worth until not long ago. Someone wanted to buy it, and I'm like, what do you want to buy it for? And when they told me what it was valued at, I was like, oh my God, did we do that? Did we build a business from our garage that is now something that could be of value to another person? Oh my God, that's amazing. But if I'm going to stick to my achievement, it's going to be being a good person. Amazing. And not everyone will agree with that, I don't think, because there's always going to be people that aren't going to like you, and that's okay. It's when I put my head on the pillow at night, I know that I've given it my everything.
That's exactly right. And look, you can be the juiciest peach in the fruit bowl and somebody's still not going to like peaches, aren't they? So
no, it's true. And allergies just don't fit. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Maria, you are very successful by, you know, the definition when we look that up in the dictionary. I'm wondering what success means or looks like to you. How will you know you've made it?
I've made it. You know, I know that I've made it because I just have a familiar here at INSKIN that comes in every day and works my dream, probably harder than I work my dream now. I have got partners that will take a bullet for me, that will, you know, they don't even think twice. They don't, you know, the days are gone when I launch a new brand and they say, oh, look, until I smell it or I feel it or I use it, I'm not going to buy it. They take a parcel with their eyes closed because they believe in me. And, you know, that for me is the biggest success story that you can ever have, that if you can sow a seed and then thousands of people in your local area, your local market, and then people in Canada and in LA and in Hong Kong believe in you and want to grow that dream, that's what success is, you know. And I'm just incredibly humbled and beyond grateful for this incredible journey that this industry has given me. And, you know, I've tried to leave this industry once. I went and did a HR course and I thought, I'm out of here. Like, I can't do these product thing anymore. Like, this is before I created my brand. You know, I'm just going to work with people because people is my thing. And the thing with this industry is you can walk away from it, but you can never leave it. It'll always be in your heart. And it's been the best decision that I made in my life, the best decision.
Amazing. And finishing off, this is probably my toughest question out of all. It's going to be like picking one of your babies, which is impossible. But if you could use only one product from INSKIN, Ginger, O for the rest of your life, could you be able to choose one?
Oh, that is mean. That is mean. That's like, we have this conversation here in the office. Do you have a favorite child? And I am gobsmacked that people actually have a favorite child. So you're sort of asking me that as well. But look, I think I know that as a therapist, people would assume that I'm going to say it's the SPF, the Mineral Pro, which is one of our top sellers in cosmetics. And yes, when it comes to looking after skin, it should be. But my absolute favorite is the O Cosmetics Gentle Antioxidant Cleanser. It is the best cleanser in the world, because I truly believe when you get the canvas right, the rest comes together. So, yeah, it's the GAC, it's the GAC.
Oh, how exciting! I'll need to duck into my local O and pick that one up and have a little try.
It's awesome. It's beautiful.
Maria, thank you so much for all of your time today and your beautiful honesty and just openness and sharing with us some of the hard times and, of course, some of the best times as well. I know our audience is going to love this episode.
Oh, Tamara, thanks for the opportunity to tell the honest story. Really appreciate it.
Was that amazing or what? We had a resounding amount of requests to feature Maria on the podcast, and after that conversation, I completely understand why. Maria is passionate and proud of our industry, and the waves that she is making makes me feel so honoured to bring to you a woman who is completely inspirational in the Australian beauty industry landscape. It's not always that our guests are so open and honest about their experiences, and I thank Maria for sharing her successful moments as well as her vulnerability, because sometimes it is hard to look back on our journey and see how far we've come and where we're headed in the future, and it was just so magical that she was able to do that for us today. I was so swept up in the conversation that I completely forgot to ask Maria about her sneaky product range number 3 that she casually dropped into the conversation. So I'll let you know about that when I'm able to have a sneak peek myself. As always, a big thank you for tuning into today's episode. If you have loved the conversation, please like, follow, and subscribe to get notifications of when we drop new episodes. And if you so wish, please feel free to give us a 5-star rating and let me know what you think of this episode. Of course, if you want more beauty industry goodness, you can find us across all of the social platforms at Beauty Industry and myself at Tamara Shaw Reid. Until next time, stay connected.